a part of the military, you know that you're walking in, there's just certain things that come with the package. And one of them is going to be long periods of separation. And so what are some ways, and I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that these ways might differ depending on the service member's specific role, but what are some ways that couples can stay connected even when they're apart?
Oh, that is such a great question. I actually am creating a deployment survival guide that will be out at the beginning of June, and I have a whole section on this. So for any military spouses out there, definitely check out this online guide. But one thing that I talk to about that is really think about how you like to connect to your spouse. So for me, it's actually quality time. I really like having quality time with my spouse. Obviously, that cannot happen when my spouse is gone, but thinking about how can I feel like I'm getting quality time even when he isn't there. And then we have those conversations. So when my husband deploys, being Navy, he's on an aircraft carrier, we only get emails. And so one thing that I have asked him is, like, once a week or even, once a day if he can you give me a really what we call good email, a really meaty email that has kind of a lot for me to read, and then I can read that when I'm needing that time with him, even if he doesn't have time to do another one. And that's kind of one way that we do it. The other thing is he recorded some videos for our daughter during the last deployment, and I realized that I loved them just as much as she did. And so having, potentially doing some things like that, knowing that that was my love language. Now, my spouse's, his is touch, which also takes a big hit when you're gone. And so really thinking about things that you can do to still feel connected there. So I give him a lot of pictures that he can hold of like our family. I send them to him in care packages. If you like to connect with words of affirmation, so really thinking about how do I like to connect to my spouse when they're home? And then how can I somehow translate this out when they are away? I think if you go into it saying we're not going to connect, this isn't going to go well, it won't, right? You'll feel disconnected, but there are definitely ways to kind of work around this. And it has to look different than your normal day to day, but you can stay connected. And sometimes we credit how we've done this with being as strong as we are. He had like 3 deployments during our dating period. And we really were forced to figure out how can we connect. And not that I would recommend that on anyone, but it really, now we are so confident that we can do it while he's gone. It just looks different, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love the love languages, how you weave that in. And I was just thinking as you were talking, if your spouse has, gifts, if that's one of their love languages, to have care packages scheduled, at certain
Mhm.
times that they know they're getting like, a little gift from you every so often, or vice versa, having them send you something if they're able to do that.
Yeah, sometimes I'll write cards ahead of time and I'll just, put them in his bag, and then he can sort of open them when he needs. And again, it's just another opportunity for connection that I'm not even necessarily doing in that moment, but that he can get it when he needs it and when he wants it. I think knowing what you want and what you don't want, and then having your spouse really think the same thing. Because I think that sometimes we put, here's what I want to connect, and we don't think about how do they want to connect? How is it going to work for them? So making sure both of you are getting your connection needs met in the best way for both of you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you've given us lots of great resources, Lindsay, Dr. Cavanagh. And I will definitely link to your online resource. So be looking for that in the show notes of this podcast, you all. And then also the books for children. I also want to make sure that I link to those too, because I think that's an incredible idea, especially for littles, that you can read to them a story and it's something that they're going through and that they're experiencing at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll be sure to link to all of that in the show
And
notes.
honestly, for all parents, that is my parenting go-to tip. Go to the library, whatever, there are books about every single parenting issue you can imagine. Do not try to recreate the wheel and think of these conversations yourself. Like, use the book and then build off that. It's so much easier.
Awesome. Well, if people want to find out more about you, Lindsay, how can they find you? And you talked about you are a marriage coach. So how would someone know if they're a military spouse? How would they know, okay, it's time for us to get some coaching?
You know, that is a really great question. I find that I treat people in a lot like I have those people who are like, my marriage is okay, but I want it to be better. I know that this life would be easier if it were better. So if that's you, great. I also have the people that are like, ooh, we're kind of on life support here. Things are really struggling. We're not doing well. So what I say to everybody is if you in any way think that there can be improvements, reach out because it's so much easier to catch things early. It's like getting your teeth cleaned, right? It's easier to find the little cavities before they become big issues. And that's how I feel in marriages as well. Now, I also say there's never a time that it's too late. There is absolutely never a time where it's over. I've seen people who were filing for divorce that then we worked together and things changed. So it's never too late. But if you have been thinking there is just something, if this were different, it would be a lot easier, reach out.
Great. And how can they find you?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So you can follow me online at Married to Military on Instagram. My podcast is also Married to Military. And I do have a free, what I call military marriage breakthrough call. And so I love chatting with people on that too. So I will make sure that you have the link so people could access me through there as well.
Awesome. Dr. Lindsay Cavanagh, thank you so much for being here with us today. This has been an incredible conversation. I know that there's going to be so many couples who are going to be enriched and encouraged based on what you shared today. So thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.